Okay, so have you ever felt lost in translation? Not because of language, but because of the culture. But what if understanding subtle cultural nuances could turn you into a leader that people instantly trust and follow? So are you ready to discover the key to become an inspiring, effective leader that across one of the most dynamic regions in the world? Asia. Well, this video is not just about leadership lesson. I believe it is a masterclass of connection. Well, first of all, I am from Asia. Asia is the home to some of the most unique leadership dynamics on the planet. How many of you agree with that? Whether you're running a multinational corporation, leading a regional team, or simply trying to understand how to connect better, I believe that this video will give you the tools to thrive. So before we dive in, once again, my request, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Well, thank you very much for that. Let's grow our leadership influence together. Okay, so let's talk about the understanding of the Asian leadership landscape. Well, first of all, Asia isn't a monolith. It's a region bursting with contrasts. Contrasts that shape how leadership is practiced in ways that might seem completely foreign if you are not tuned in. Well, let's talk about the first example here, South Korea's hierarchical leadership. Well, in case you don't know, imagine you step into the South Korean boardroom, okay? There's a sense of formality. Every move feels deliberate. Even if someone disagrees, they don't challenge the authority directly. Decisions come from the top, and junior team members defer to the senior leaders out of deep respect for hierarchy. So one time, our team actually had the opportunity to work with a Korean company where the younger executives had brilliant ideas but rarely spoke up. And their leadership asked, why aren't we innovating faster? The problem wasn't creativity, by the way, it's the culture of difference. We introduced the structured brainstorming sessions where the juniors could contribute anonymously first, and their ideas were later discussed by the whole team. What's the result, you may ask? It becomes a flood of innovation. So here is the questions for you to think. How often do you miss out on great ideas because the environment doesn't encourage them to service? Well, let's talk about another example. I'll call it the Indian dynamics, the entrepreneurial spirit. Well, in the Indian boardroom, the energy was palpable. The positions, the debate that we see in the room feels like chaos. I'm sure you can imagine that, right? Honestly, it's not chaos, it's creativity. Indian leaders thrive on speed and adaptability. So our team, I remember, consult tech firms in Bangalore, and they wanted to introduce a new product in record time. The traditional decision making would have slowed them down, but instead, we created the rapid prototyping teams that work in parallel, allowing them to launch in just a few weeks. What's the lessons, you may ask? Well, different cultures demand different leadership styles. How adaptable are you to the rhythm of the room? Okay, so let's talk about the power of collectivism. If you're used to the individualistic mindset of the West, well, guess what? Collectivism might feel like a roadblock. But here in Asia, it's the few that drives relationships, team, and success. And in Chinese, there's a saying called guanxi. Guanxi is the Mandarin words, which basically talks about relationship. Guanxi is much more important than anything else. Okay, let me give you an example of from Japan. Japan, the leadership isn't about issuing orders. It's about ensuring everyone is on the same page. Before a formal decision is made, leaders engage in this word. Listen carefully. It's called nimawashi. It's a Japanese word, which is basically informal process of seeking input and building consensus. And here is something I remember our team worked with a client from Japan where the proposal has to pass through several layers of discussion before getting the green light. Well, honestly, I felt slow, but once the decision was finalized, the execution was flawless. So everyone knew their role, and there was no surprise. Think about your own leadership. How often do you rush to a decision only to deal with the fallout later? So slowing down to building alignment save you time in the long run. Another example here from Thailand. So in Thailand, the concept of saving face is very critical. Open disagreements, especially in front of the others, will be avoided at all costs. So I remember during a workshop that I conducted in Bangkok, Thailand, two senior leaders had opposing ideas. You can imagine this. But instead of clashing, they approached me privately to voice their concerns. And together, we found a middle ground that preserved harmony while addressing both viewpoints. So here's the questions for you. In your organization, do you prioritize harmony or do you let the conflicts simmer? What could you achieve? What could you achieve if your team trusted each other more? But let's dive into the communication, shall we? In Asia, the spoken word is only part of the story. The unspoken carries just as much, if not more, if not more. So the first example I gave you is the silence of the respect. So here's the thing. In Japan, silence is golden. I once sat in a negotiation meeting where after every proposal, the room went silent for what felt like eternity. My instinct was to fill the silence, but I held back. After the meeting, one of the executives actually said to me, "Your patience showed respect, and it made us trust you." That moment taught me a critical lesson. Silence is not awkward, it's being thoughtful. How many deals or relationships have you rushed because you didn't leave room for silence? How about in China? In China, as I said earlier, the guanxi, the personal connections, is everything. You don't do business with someone unless you trust them on personal level first. So I remember a deal in China where my client insists on multiple dinners and even a karaoke session before discussing the contract. And you must understand that it's not wasted time. Is relationship building. The guys drink first before we even talk about business. That is how you work with the Chinese people from mainland China. And when the deals happened, it's all because of trust, not because of the terms. So here's the questions for you. Do you take time to build relationships, or do you solely focus on results? Well, let's talk about collaborations in Asia. It is an art form blending empathy, respect, and understanding. So in Vietnam, people don't immediately share their thoughts. Trust must be earned first. Well, I work with a lot of Vietnamese, and one time I worked in a project with the Vietnamese team where the first few meetings were silent. Wow. But after spending time outside the office, sharing meals, listening to the stories, their contributions become invaluable. So what could your team achieve if you invested in understanding them at a deeper level? Well, in Malaysia, which is a multiracial society, teams are often mixed with Malay, Chinese, and Indian cultures, each with its own communication style. So I work with a lot of Malaysians, and one time I worked with the leader who felt like the team wasn't aligned. So we introduced cultural awareness and rotated leadership roles during the meetings. Change, interestingly, was dynamic, and suddenly everyone's voice was heard. So here's the questions for you. How often do you leverage the diversity within your team? Well, question is, why does this all matter? Well, because leadership isn't about power. It is about, listen carefully, connection. Well, Starbucks' success in China as an example. Well, Starbucks actually didn't enter China with a Western mindset. They adapted by introducing tea-based drinks and creating stories such as social hubs. They connected with Chinese culture while staying true to the brand. Today, well, China is one of the largest markets for Starbucks. So what about you? Are you willing to adapt to connect with those who lead? Well, thank you for watching this video so far. So I will ask you, what are the takeaways? Well, let's think about what actions can you take right now. Well, I'll give you 3. 1, study the culture. Leaderships start with understanding. Number 2, build trust first. Relationships in Asia are the foundations of influence. Number 3, celebrate diversity. Differences aren't obstacles. In fact, they are opportunities. So what's one cultural nuance you have experienced that changed the way you lead? Is my questions for you. Maybe you can share your stories here by commenting below in this video. I would love to hear your story. And once again, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with someone. Share this video with someone who is ready to lead with greater understanding. Remember, together we can build a better, more connected world. So once again, thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in my next one.